Meeting to order at 1 o'clock. Municipal Planning Commission. And agenda additions and approval. Is there any that anybody has any from staff?
No, Mr. Chair, other than point out one of your handouts does relate to one of the items on the agenda already.
Fair enough. Excellent. And none from the board. Can I get a motion? Mr. Clark? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Minutes from our July 24th meeting. They were distributed. Any errors or omissions? Mr. Stolberg?
I'll give you that motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. No questions, concerns? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. No business arising from said minutes. We'll do quick introductions. We're going to start with Mr. Rich Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
Michelle Hoover, Legislative Assistant.
Paul McCade, Denali Red Roll.
Dave Grover, Big Valley.
Larry Clark.
Good afternoon, Les Stulberg.
James Nyberg, Chair of the MPC.
Greg Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
And we'll go back. Greg?
Greg Hayden. For approval on it.
Perfect.
Andrew Brusick, Director of Municipal Services.
And is there anybody online?
Online, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. Thank you. Done. Well, gentlemen, are we okay going to 7.1, page 14, well, since we have an individual here? All those in favor? I'm seeing nodding head. That's good. There was no motion. I just seeing your nodding of your heads. Okay, page 14, 7.1. Who's going to take this one?
That'll be me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Can I ask you to bring up the sketch on EN19 to begin with, please? We'll come back to that one. So this application is for the subdivision of an existing commercial parcel in the highway mixed-use district. So for your bearings, I think you're all familiar with the Petro-Canada site that's on the southeast corner of the town of Stettler on the south side of Highway 12. And the two parcels are one new one around the existing Petrochem. That's a building that you see on the screen on the north part, the orange boundary. And then creating a new commercial parcel on the south end. That's the purple boundary that you can see down below. Combined, they're just a little bit under 2 acres in size. So the proposal is to have about 1.19 acres for the parcel around the existing Petrochem site and about 0.73 acres for the parcel that would be a new development parcel to the south of the Petrochem building. The application has been reviewed against our municipal development plan, and intermunicipal development plan does apply in that area as well, and against the land use bylaw. In terms of the plans, it does meet the intent. It's a commercial area, and this is further subdivision to accommodate commercial development. When we look at the land use bylaw, and maybe I'll ask you now to jump back to that page on our print on page 14, please, Andrew. We do have to evaluate it for a few things when we're working around existing buildings and working around a parcel that may be smaller than what the bylaw requires. So in this particular case, the new parcel, the pink one to the south, would require relaxation of the minimum parcel area of 1 acre. It's proposed to be at 0.73. And the question turns to, is that still a reasonable size parcel given the constraints and our setbacks? Can you still do something reasonable to develop on that? So it's a question of also evaluating if the commission is prepared to grant a relaxation. Does it fit within the character of the area? Does it have any impact on anyone else's ability to develop their property? So on those last two counts, so the administration's review is that it does fit with the character. Go a little to the west. We have similar size lots that were subdivided around the close many years ago. And then if we scroll down just a little bit more to the graphic, you can see this is our assessment of, is there enough buildable area to do something reasonably in terms of future commercial development? So the grayed out area that you're seeing is the box within the pink boundaries. And I guess we had to punch up that a little bit in terms of size so we read some things. Thank you. That's what we call the building envelope. So the parcel boundaries are on the outside. That's the pink. And then the gray is a theoretical area that if you meet our setback requirements, you could put a building in there. And across the east-west dimension, across the north, around 125 feet, north-south, around 138. So even if you round down, there's 10,000 square feet of workable space in there to place a building. Now, it does depend on where you put your parking, where you put your doors, how your vehicles are going to be maneuvering through the space, where there may be constraints, and we do have to talk about the existing underground service of the Petrocan building. But we've also taken away the 25-foot side yard all the way there on the perimeter, and it shows that even at a 5,000 square foot building, there's ample opportunity in this particular site. So from staff's perspective, yeah, this is very much a developable, a workable highway commercial parcel if it's approved by the commission. Can we jump back a little bit? I want to talk a little bit more about servicing, and probably the map on 19 is the best one for that, Andrew, or sorry, 22. Thank you. So in this particular area, we do have access to municipal water and wastewater. And we do have the water and wastewater agreement with the town. So that means they will effectively look after what's called individual, or what their terminology is, independent service connections at a later date would be installed in accordance with the town utility bylaw. So under that agreement, we've delegated certain roles and responsibilities to the town for follow-up, which is why we also wanted their specific feedback on this proposal. So there's an existing service for water and wastewater for the existing Petro Canada building that comes in at the south end of the property. So the south end of the pink box, roughly speaking, halfway east-west along that property line. And it makes its way somehow to the southeast corner of the Petrocan building. And right now, we're not 100% sure of the exact route that it takes. So that is one of the issues in terms of, because it would go right through that great area for buildable space that I mentioned. Not an insurmountable issue. If need be, these kind of facilities, they do cost money to relocate, but if they are cutting diagonal through there and that influences future building placement, it may have to be relocated. It's also possible that it takes a route that kind of skirts over to the east and doesn't have that much of an impact, but at this point we don't know that exactly, and I'll come back to the condition around that as well. So that service would continue on for the Petro Canada building unless the developer chooses to make changes. And one of the changes could be a new service connection for the Petro Canada building straight west out to the lines that are in 38th Street. And then the new parcel could use the existing service connection once the building is figured out off the, sorry, if I can remember straight street, 42nd Avenue. There's no point in actually trying to figure out where to put a new service connection for the new building, since we don't know where the building is going to be placed on the new parcel. So it's not unusual for that to be left to the time of development permit, which both our system and the town system does allow. Once the town sees exactly what the nature of the building is, the layout is, they would then be able to give more specific feedback on a service connection that would meet the utility bylaw requirement. And these things are all at the developer's expense in terms of the new service connection, if need be, the relocation or movement of an existing one to make space for that building envelope we were looking at earlier. So that is the probably the one wrinkle with this particular application, given that our assessment is that there is suitable building space to provide a commercial building in the future. Turning attention to the specific conditions, that's on page 19 in the PDF. We'll just quickly walk through those and how they touch on some of the issues. Quicker myself. So the first one is typically they get the surveyor's drawing to reflect the approval. The second one, also very typical, make sure that the property taxes are up to date. Number 3 deals with that issue of the finding an easement agreement for the existing service connections, because we're going to have 2 different parties at a later date, even though they're under the same ownership right now. So if the existing services are for the Petrocan building are going to be cutting across the new lot, that should be protected in the easement agreement. Similarly, number 4, there is a shared access across the north, where the kind of the midpoint coming off 38th Street, where to use that access, probably traffic from both parcels is going to be crossing the line at some point in time, and we're suggesting that an access agreement along that shared boundary, running probably in an east-west direction, also be required, so that those type of maneuverings can still happen, which means that too pushes that building envelope a little bit smaller than the full 125 feet by 138 feet that we saw, but not so much that you've lost the ability to build a building. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to field any questions.
I'd like to move this forward anytime we put have a lot prepared to put another business in the county of Stettler, I'm all over it. And I'll make the motion to push it ahead.
Offsite levy fee for the town, does that have to be paid on this one, or how does that one work?
It does have to be paid, but it's already been taken care of by the previous subdivision created lot that we're re-subdividing today.
I realize that, but I mean, that offsite levy fee is for service connection, right? Is that what I'm understanding? So should there be another one that has to come out of it?
No, offsite levies are a one-time, the one parcel only pays one time ever, and they've already paid it.
Oh, so the entire subdivision has paid it?
Yep, under a phased arrangement, but yes,
Okay. But this is new to what was proposed, like each lot had to pay it, right?
it did. So you only get, unless you specifically structured your levy to collect some at a time of development permit and some at a time of subdivision, you're only allowed to go after one parcel once. And we've already, the town.
This is creating another parcel, that's why I'm just.
The parent parcel is the one that already has made the contribution, so you can't look at the new parcels coming out of it.
But it's about the connection, wasn't it?
The connection is managed in a different way. So the offsite levy pays for the offsite infrastructure, the big things like the trunk lines and the wastewater treatment plant. The service connections, individual service, could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 easily.
At the time of connection. That's right. Okay, fair enough. No, that's good that that's taken care of.
Just one extra clarifying, but the offsite levy by law is charged per acre, not per lot, correct?
Fair enough. It is applied.
That's where the new lot doesn't.
Fair enough. No, I just didn't want any hidden costs in there. Mr. Hayden, if you could use the mic, because we are online if somebody's listening.
Just to clarify the servicing connection and where it is connected. I spoke this last week, and the word may not have made it to this meeting, but I spoke to Wallace McComish, who did the servicing on that lot. He
There you go. Yeah.
he indicated that the actual connection is midpoint on 38th or 42nd on the backside of the lot. And then the lineage goes from there to the east and up within he said 6 or 7 feet of the property line on the east side of the lot. So it doesn't go diagonal across the lot. It goes up the perimeter within the setback that we have to be observing.
Fair enough. No, that's good to know for you guys, I guess. So, yeah.
I think, I think it's a concern for future development too.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, that's good to know. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's just keep going. 7.2, 32, page 32 of your package. Who's taking this one?
It'll be me again, Mr. Chair. As soon as I get my own computer working for me. So this application is up in the north end of the county, just outside the village of Donalda. And if other than the cemetery, which is taken out in the lower left corner, as we can see on the image, the property is very somewhat unique in terms of its features. It's kind of got a tableland, which you see in the pasture, the cropped land on the left-hand side, serve over the pink boxes, and then we run into the edge of the coulee, and we drop down into the Meaty Creek coulee, which is all what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the photo. Bisected by Highway 53, and then also bisected by the former railway that connected Donalda to the town of Stettler. So the provincial highway out of title, Highway 53, and then even though we call it a right-of-way, the railway is actually separate titled land that's been taken out of title as well. So the application in this particular case is to separate the cultivated land from the uncultivated land and create a single, legally a large title over 16 hectares, but it will be what's called a title in 2 parts. And that it would be legally one entity, even though we're showing 2 purple cubes or polygons. and collectively they'd be listed on the same title. So at a future date, whether or not you're dealing with the portion to the north of 53 or the portion to the south of 53, we would look at that as the same single legal entity. And so if you're trying to subdivide one without dealing with the other, it's all bound together. Same with the remainder property, because it too is severed by Highway 53. So there'll be two parts in the same title, one south of 53 and one north of 53, which makes it kind of interesting to deal with. As an agricultural parcel, it's not subject to municipal reserve dedication. And at this point, there's no proposal to use it for residential purposes. So it's very much an agricultural use. At some future date, though, even an agricultural parcel, someone could come along and want to put a house on one part or the other of the title property. The motivation behind is really to separate the crop land from the coulee land, with the possibility of that being disposed of to another party or in some way or fashion. So the issues that come up are predominantly access related. And just a reminder just for everyone that what we're seeing on the air photo right now looks nice and flat. It's not nice and flat up there. So there's a lot of constraints. And so Alberta Transportation also has some actually very strong influence on this particular application. We can't move forward without their say so. And that takes us to the handout that you found on your desk in front of you. Last minute, we finally got the comments in from AT this morning. And they have indicated in their somewhat cryptic manner that they don't oppose the subdivision, but they want realization that the two accesses off to the cropped fields, which you can see one north and one south of Highway 53, are temporary. And if at some future time we're upgrading it or we want those relocated, then that's the landowner just has to move it. That's it. End of story. They're not seeking any follow-up from us. They just want that understanding to be communicated to the landowner. And the landowner does understand that, yes, that's probably, that he would have to abide by that. Up in the time, this is also our first indication that the province would allow another access off their other highway, which is Highway 850 along the west side. So on the southwest corner parcel for that part of the field that's on that side of the Highway 53, there'd be possibility for an access probably just on the north property line by the cemetery. For the area that's on the north side of Highway 53, there seems to be enough space off our range road, 18.5, staying back from the intersection, so almost midway where you see the little tree line come down underneath or just to the right of the 18.5 label to meet our spacing requirements. The ditch doesn't look like it's insurmountable there. Or the other alternative would be go up and use the partially developed road allowance across the north, not necessarily directly in the front bay window of the existing house that's up there. So there are some options for the applicant in the future if it comes to the point where AT tells them you need to relocate your access points off Highway 53. So the application was circulated to the village of Denalda. We didn't get any comments back but our assessment of it does meet the requirements of the IDP and the MPP. And in terms of the minimum parcel size, 3 acres, the two parts collectively do, both the remainder and the proposed new lot do meet the minimum 3 acre parcel size. So turning attention to conditions, we got a couple other items that will come out on page 40, I believe. So the first two you're used to seeing in terms of bring in your surveyor, do up your plan, bring it in for check. The second one, make sure the taxes are up to date. Number 3 deals with another access issue, and that the lands that are from the top of the coulee and down and also bisected, they will not be able to have an access. The only public road allowance that provides them access is Highway 53. If they're a separate parcel on their own, they will be reliant on an access easement from land that is to the east that's also owned by the applicant. So they're prepared to provide an access easement across that land to the benefit of the remainder parcel. So they'll be able to have physical and legal access in that manner. And it's fortunate that they own that neighboring quarter section to be able to put that on the table, because otherwise we don't usually get to bring in third parties in a subdivision application to solve an issue like that. Condition number 4 deals with the historic character of the area. It's just when we get into this, there's a provincial database that says there's a large number of areas that are kind of target or potential for archaeological, paleontological, or cultural artifacts. And the coulee around Denalda is definitely one of those that's flagged. So even though it's an agricultural activity that would be continuing on, much like it has for many years, we're still flagging the need to get a historical resource clearance for the subdivision approval. So that does mean the developer or the applicant would have to register online, submit their plans, and hopefully get a clearance letter from the provincial staff. Mr. Chair, I do want to make some wording changes to that condition by removing the specific reference to the historical resources impact assessment. That's a conclusion on what's needed to get to the approval stage, and I'd rather leave that in the hands of the provincial staff. So I like it to word instead to say written confirmation to the subdivision authority that a historical resources act approval has been obtained prior to proceeding with any land surface disturbance associated with the subdivision development, et cetera, and to carry on the way of the rest of the sentence. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to field any questions.
Okay, so the question I have on the historical resources one, the way that it says before any land is disturbed, will they get their subdivision without doing that? Or because you typically you wouldn't have to disturb any land to do a subdivision.
Yeah, subdivisions, it depends on the nature of the subdivision. So if we're talking about a full-on urban subdivision, our next step would be to dig up and put in roads, pipes, so there'd be some disturbance there. In this particular case, as an agricultural activity that's already been ongoing for quite a while, my hope is that it's a relatively straightforward clearance to get. The wording that I asked to be taken off, that's actually you have to hire someone to go walk around and take a look, and mostly they're going to spend a lot of time walking around, including the cooling. So that's several $1000s of hit. And the staff may or
get that job. I don't know how you do it, but
there are qualifications. That may or may not be a requirement by the ministry staff. The other thing to remember about these clearances is it's always subject to if you happen to do a dugout somewhere later on and you find a fossil or something, you're supposed to stop and report so they can document, catalog, and then move on. So that it's called a clearance letter, but it always has a caveat, that condition at the back. So that is.
I'm familiar with it. I'm more on the development permit side than I am on the subdivision side. That's why.
So that's it. The staff hopefully will take into account the likelihood of further disturbance, given that the proponent would be suggesting that he's going to continue cultivating it the way he has for many years, and leaving the rest as pasture land.
And one other one, it just, I mean, it seems that the applicant at this time, this seems like 4 natural parcels that would be subdivided off. They don't, was there a reason behind that they wanted to go with just the 2 and continue to keep the Highway 53 split with them?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So some large part of that would be our own policies as it applies to municipal reserve dedication. So Andrew, can we pop back to the map, please? That shows us the full context. So even though he's severed by a railway that wasn't under the applicant's control, a highway that also wasn't under his control, the first parcel out of this quarter section would be the cemetery in the lower left. So anything next up, we'd be looking at that question of municipal reserve dedication at 10%. But another part of the legislation states that if you're doing a agricultural parcel over 40 acres, we're not allowed to require municipal reserve dedication. This one is coming in just over that 40.
Fair enough.
This is a good example where the intent and use at the time of subdivision actually has a bearing on our policies.
Okay, no, that's clear for me. I'm glad, that's good information. Any other questions or concerns with this? Move it forward, Mr. McKay?
I'll move it forward with the recommendations, please.
Okay, any questions, concerns with that changing the historical resources verbiage? All those in favor? That's carried. Interesting one. Good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. You betcha. See ya. 7.3, 47.
I will excuse myself, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And page 47 of your package. You're taking this one too?
That's right, Mr. Chair. So this bit of a theme, it's another agricultural parcel being proposed. And you can see on the sketch in front of you, almost a full intact quarter section. So this would be also the first parcel out. And the proposal is to create a large, around half of the overall land title agricultural parcel on the right-hand side, and then the remainder also being agricultural parcel on the left-hand side. In the lower part of the proposed parcel, you can see one building outside the trees. That's a shop. And then a little bit more difficult to pick out in the trees, there's a manufactured home that's located in that area as well. So staff have evaluated this against the MDP and the LUV, and even if the manufactured home, I think the applicants indicated its long-term future is to leave the site. But even if that changes, it does meet the requirements in terms of our yards and setbacks. So that's not a mandatory requirement from us in this perspective. It's something that we've checked. Definitely meets the intent of the LUV minimum parcel area of 3 acres. And in terms of our MDP policies, we feel it's consistent as well to accommodate parcels of different sizes to accommodate agricultural activity. There is one issue with road widening. So the Range Road 17-1 has already provided physically the 5 the Forest Road, Township Road 30-0A is 20 meters wide. So there is a requirement to look at that 5-meter dedication by road use agreement along that entire frontage across the entire quarter section in case we ever upgrade or widen that road. Similarly, there's an issue to look at some brushing from the existing access for some of the trees. So that means we would ask the applicant to agree and pass it on to our brushing crews for their eventual, when they get around on their work list. And the last item I'd draw your attention to, and Andrew, I think we have another drawing just to after that one, thank you, is the issue of the existing open discharge that serves a manufactured home. So you can see that on that, the dot indicates our approximate location on where the point of discharge is, and then the mandatory 90-meter setback is the outer of those 2 blue rings that you can see. And it would definitely go over the existing property line. The applicant has indicated that they are planning to decommission the open discharge, keep the shop, and remove the manufactured home. So that could take, most likely the easiest way to decommission it is probably just pull the pump, disconnect the hose, keep the tank until you're completely done with the manufactured home. And that would satisfy the issue that we're looking for at this stage. In terms of rural development fund fee, we're basically creating 2 agricultural parcels. So the administration doesn't recommend an assessment of the rural development fund contribution in that respect. And the recommendations for the conditions for the approval, if we could jump to page 51, please, Andrew. It goes up on the screen. They too, the first 2 standard ones you're used to seeing. Number 3 is the road acquisition agreement along the south for about 5 meters all the way along. Number 4 is the grubbing for the sight lines for the existing access. And number 5 is making sure that the open discharge component of the private wastewater is decommissioned to our satisfaction. And like I said, that could be as simple as pull the pump, plug the hole, send us some pictures, and we call it kind of a done deal in that respect.
Okay, good. So what would the rural development fund be on 78 acres?
$78,000.
Oh, yes. Somebody want to move this forward? Mr. Stolberg, any questions, concerns from over there? Shakings of heads, seeing none. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Tell them to bring the coffee with them too. He left completely. It had nothing to do with you guys. You do the next one, Mr. So we're going to go back up to, just so everybody's ready, we're going to go to page 6 of your package. 6.1. It's only $78,000 is the problem, right? Oh, I didn't think it would be for you. Thank you. Okay, like I said, page 6 and 6.1. And Rich, you're taking this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The application is for an ancillary building in the Roshan Sands Estate subdivision. The applicant is proposing to use the CCAN for an ancillary building. Ancillary buildings are a permitted use in this district. However, the use of a CCAN in a multi-lot subdivision makes this application discretionary, and that's why it's before you today. The property is located at 9 Pony Drive, Roshan Sands Estates. It's a 1.2 acres parcel. Land adjacent to the subject property is residential with an agricultural parcel to the west. The applicant's proposing to place 160 square foot CCAN on the lot. The CCAN will be of new construction, painted white. And the purpose is to secure storage on the property because the applicant is away out of the country most of the winter. So he's looking to be able to lock his things up and keep it in a secure area. Photo 1 is a picture of the place where he intends to place the CCAN. As you can see on the west side, it's all vegetated, separating the neighboring property, so the neighboring property won't have to look at the CCAN. He's also proposing, if you go to photo 4, the section that is open to the parcel to the east, he's going to put this fence around so the neighboring party to the east won't see the CCAN as well. Then you can see his site plan there as well. So CCANs are time limited permit. So when we approve them, it doesn't stay with the land. We put a time limit on it. So I'll just quickly go through that. So this is of new, it's a new CCAN. It's not an older one that's been painted before and whatnot. I thought that 10-year time limit for this application would be, appropriate. So if you go to the development permit draft, you'll see that I've written that in as a condition. I believe it's condition number 1. Right. Glasses aren't working today. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any questions, concerns about the CCAN? Mr. McKay?
Just that if the picture was the actual CCAN that we are expecting, the photo says that it's an example. So examples and the real thing can be different. So I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, I think they said that it was new construction.
Right. So I did put that in there, I do believe as well. Constructed fence is comparable design is submitted with the application and the CCAN from the, but I guess the site, the part that ties that in is it shall be undertaken and completed in accordance with the attached site plan and description as submitted in the permit application. So that way we can tie him in. If it shows up and it's not of new construction, then he'll be in conflict with his permit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
How tall of a fence would that be?
If it goes over 6 feet, he would have to get a permit for it.
Just to block it off, you would have to go over 6 feet, so. Okay.
I'll move that we approve it with the conditions.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, 8.1, I think is where we're at. If we get back to where we're going, page 64 of our package, gentlemen. And who's taking this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take this. So it's the department report. So it gives you a breakdown of the development permits that we had processed as of the end of August of 2023, the number of permits for each year. Jumping forward to this year, we've processed a total number of permits of 71 as of August 22nd. So we're a little bit behind last year's numbers. But again, I chalk that up to the 2-year rotation of the RV, the RV permits that come due every 2 years. So last year was the year that the majority of those came up for renewal. So we're a little bit behind that this year. The development permits that we're working on are a mixture of residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional developments. Planning staff have worked to bring the processing times down for permitted use developments. Planning staff have also been working pretty much bylaw and have brought several properties into compliance with the cooperation of landowners. Bylaw has indicated that there seems to be more voluntary compliance this year with the temporary RV permitting and encroachment issues along the ER and MR lands. So it's nice to see that our efforts seem to be making a little bit of headway up at the lake. That concludes my report.
So how does I see on page 64 there, the Bar W Resort, there's no construction value. Do we ever get a construction value of that one, or how do we figure that one out?
It's on our application, but we don't make it mandatory information that they give us, so it's voluntary on their part. So some people give it to us, some people don't. Where it becomes important is our tax department will put a value on it. Eventually, it's once the development permit gets processed, then I think they're probably 6 months or so behind, from the time.
So will they start to see a tax, true tax assessment on October, or when does this come around, or June? I can't remember.
Assessment wise, it's always based on December 31st of the year prior. So the taxes that would be due for that property in the end of October this year would have been assessed based on the property state December 31st of last year.
So when we're saying this, just so that I'm bearing this properly, so we're going to do the assessment October of 2024, and it'll be what the value was of 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really won't see a full assessed value until 2025, basically.
If I recall, Mr. Chair, given the nature of that particular use, there's also the question of ramp up and use of the sites. So it's not just our normal timeline of getting on it, also kind of a gradual, which is difficult to predict because we don't know. This year they were able to get 40 to 50 leaseholders. Maybe next year they double that, maybe the year after that, and that too is gonna.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because there was the permit for the store, like the hard assets that are there. I'm just wondering where that tax,
So
when they'll see the tax.
They won't see that reflected on their tax bill until the calendar year following when they finish the construction.
So 25.
yeah,
In this case.
Okay. No, I just wondered. I mean, that's ultimately what with development stuff, it's what we look for is in our increase in our tax base and an increase in options. So,
It's
okay.
a little bit more complicated with production-based things like linear. That doesn't see this board generally, but that is based on actual generation and consumption and profit, basically, versus the actual value of what's on the ground.
So when they put their plants on, they hold off and don't actually put it into production until January 1st. Okay, any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll get somebody to receive for information. Mr. Grover, Mr. Grover? Okay, all those in favor? I just saw the twitch there, Dave. I didn't know if you were scratching your head or what. Okay. New business. 9.1, White Sands. Page 6.
I'll take that one. So this application may look familiar to you. It was brought forward a couple months back. It's the White Sands Hutteray Colony and their application to the NRCB for a confined feeding operation. So the only changes that they're making to it is they would like to move their quarantine barn back a little farther from the road than what was previously approved in their application. So they've, it's made an amendment to that application. So that's why this is brought forward to you. It actually is, I think, beneficial to everyone to have it back farther from the road than what was originally approved. But it meets, we've already, kind of went over this and gave her comments back to NRCB. But when the application changed, they send it back to us and ask us again for any comments or concerns. So that's why you're seeing it here again today.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Seeing Mr. Clark twitching there. This is received for information, or how do you want to see this one?
Well, we have to give them a response back. So if you have any concerns with the changes, let me know and I will make.
Yeah, so I think this is just a receive for information. There's no vote on this one, is there?
It should be actually. We do have to have direction to, if you're comfortable with the correspondence, we'll communicate that on to the NRC.
Okay, just there's no comments or concerns, so then instruct administration to go ahead with that. Okay, is that clear for administration?
Yes.
Okay, there is no issues. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, 9.2 referral from town of Stettler.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So this is a land use bylaw amendment that the town is processing for a property at the northwest corner of 70th and Highway 12. I think it's Rep subdivision is commonly referred to. So there's two houses that are on the subject site right now, and the proposal is to move them out of a direct control district into the highway commercial district to facilitate a pending development permit for kind of a mini commercial plaza with a couple restaurants, one of which will have a drive-through and some commercial retail bays. I don't have any insight on proposed tenants. You can ask, but I don't have anything to share with you on that one. So this is a site is around 800 meters within the town boundaries before all directions at a minimum. It is consistent with the IDP that we have for the town, and the recommendation from administration is to communicate that we have no concerns or objections with the proposed land use bylaw amendment.
Questions or concerns? Seeing none, Mr. Stolberg?
I'll move that we write a letter to the town, say we have no concerns or objections.
Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Mr. Grover gave me the wave, so he's voted for it. Okay. Old business? None? Okay. And any in camera?
We do, Mr. Chair.
So I will get Mr. Clark to give us an in camera. All those in favor? That is carried. This next meeting, which stuff? Oh, yeah. Oh, the camera. Dave, you want to leave the camera?
Stay in here and listen to what we can't do anything about.
Okay, thank you. Passed unanimously. Okay, next meeting, I don't think I'll be here, so who's right here? Justin, I'll coordinate with him. No questions or concerns, September the 25th, is that right? At 1 PM. All those in favor? Oh, I guess who's gonna give me the adjournment? Les?